Tonight on Southern Newsweek, a historic viaduct is reopened to Fiordland hikers. Santa Claus takes part in Christmas parades in Dunedin and across the South Island. And craft beer brewing is one of the courses on offer at Cromwell's new Polytech campus. Kia ora, I'm Sophie Morris. Hikers in Fiordland are set to get the chance to tramp across a piece of history again with the Percy Boone Viaduct now officially reopened. More than 50 guests were flown to the remote landmark in the southern Fiordland World Heritage Area to celebrate the occasion.
Performing on the nearly 100-year-old Percy Boone Viaduct on southern Fiordland's Humpbridge track, Invercargill band the trio Keening providing musical entertainment to the 50-odd guests attending the viaduct's reopening. The structure was built back in 1925 for a local sawmill which eventually failed, leaving parts of the forest untouched. The viaduct was closed in 2013 due to safety concerns, but a $700,000 restoration project has once again allowed trampers to cross high above the treetops.
So it's the combination of the historic heritage, the huge engineering expertise that built the viaducts and has now restored them, and our natural heritage.
She says the area is not only scenic but rich in wildlife thanks to pest eradication programs run by DOC.
Waitutu is extraordinary. The forest, the marine terraces, the coast, the river systems, being able to hear and see kaka because of sustained pest control by the Department of Conservation. It's a wonderful place.
And the Humpbridge track may well get an extra boost by being designated as a Great Walk, although there's some competition for that title.
It's down to a short list of three: Te Paki in Northland, the Queen Charlotte Walkway and the Humpbridge track. So the Department of Conservation will consider that carefully and make a decision in the next couple of months.
The restoration took a crew of 7, working 11-hour days over 2 weeks to complete, with workers living in a small hut next to the viaduct. Southern Fiordland for the South Today.
The man in red may have had a wardrobe malfunction, but the baking sun and a massive crowd made for a vintage Dunedin Santa parade last Sunday. It's the 20th year the event has been held in its current form. Many thousands of children and adults lined George Street from North Dunedin to the Octagon, hoping to catch a glimpse of Santa.
A stunner of a day greeted the jolly fat guy in the red suit in Dunedin. Thousands of people lined George Street for the city's annual Santa parade. The action began around 3 p.m. when more than 70 floats of all shapes and sizes began trundling down George Street toward the Octagon. Floats and entertainers made their way along the route, while the more nimble of vehicles weaved their way around, some of them even spraying the audience. It's understood the Peninsula Trust's Albatross had a bit of an oopsie with a stationary object, which didn't seem to ruffle too many feathers, while crews on emergency service vehicles seemed to enjoy tooting their air horns and wailing sirens just for the heck of it, while Christmas music boomed from floats as they passed waving spectators. The Great Dane, known as Spook, led to the Heart Kids Otago flotilla. A large contingent of local scouts marched along, closely followed by a Kia Orana float filled with Pacific Islands drummers and dancers. But it was the big bloke in the red suit who received the biggest cheer. As the parade finished, a concert began in the Octagon featuring a host of local entertainers, including Jaden TJ and Rainbow Rosalind, along with her fellow sprites, Fairy Evergreen and Fairy Christmas.
Have a very Merry Christmas, everybody! Woo!
Say hello, Santa Claus!
In Dunedin, the South Today.
It wasn't only Dunedin holding a Santa parade at the weekend. Parades and Christmas events were held around the island, from up on the west coast and North Canterbury down to South Otago.
Many southern towns held Christmas parades over the weekend. In Greymouth, West Coasters put on a festival with an inflatable Spider-Man climbing apparatus, some local entertainers, and Santa made a couple of appearances, handing out sweeties to kids outside and then hearing their Christmas wish lists inside. Slightly down the road and across the island in Kaiapoi, members of local churches were among those on parade, reminding people of the reason for the season, while vehicles from yesteryear were accompanied by women in stunning period costume, before Santa made an appearance here too. Just down the road in Ashburton, some impressive farm machinery featured, alongside religious floats, vintage cars and brightly coloured cycles. And in Ashburton, Santa's sleigh was lovingly carried on the flat deck behind a large red truck. Kids lined the streets in Balclutha, and the parade's convener Joanne Thompson was thankful for how the day turned out.
Oh, fabulous day. Fabulous day. Great team of helpers, and thanks to Jean for everything. The weather gods have played their part, and thanks to the public for coming out and supporting everyone.
Cultures from many nations were represented, and in true southern style, 2 Santas drove their own tractors. Down in Invercargill, cultural diversity was to the fore, with flags and colours of many nations on display. While the troopers of the Invercargill Tap Association managed to tap dance on a moving trailer, before a very busy Santa Claus made an appearance here as well. Covering the regions, the South Today.
Central Otago has raised its glass to a $1.5 million investment in Cromwell's Polytechnic, and there's more good news on the way. Not long after the new Trades and Craft Brewery building at Central Campus had been officially opened, plans for further expansion were also announced.
Central Otago Mayor Tim Cadogan ushering in a new era in education for the region. The new Trades and Brewery building is the second part of a 2-stage $3 million project at Otago Polytechnic's Central Campus in Cromwell.
We're well known throughout the world as the fruit bowl of Central Otago and of New Zealand, and this is a confirmation not just in the horticultural sector but in the building sector, in all the trade industries, in mechanics and in the craft brewery that's open. The first craft brewery in Australasia where you can get a craft brewery qualification.
The brewery, known as the Rough Rock Brewing Company, will train students in the New Zealand Certificate in Brewing, a full-time 1-year Level 4 program.
It's the first commercial brewery run by a polytechnic. It's the first training program built around a commercial brewery. It's the first set of brewery programs to be on offer in New Zealand.
But the main part of the new $1.5 million building is set to house carpentry and automotive students. Central Campus head Alex Hufferdine says their courses aim to prepare graduates for the commercial world.
If you're a carpentry student, for instance, what should you be able to do? Well, you should be able to build a house. And that's exactly what's happening here. Our students have to build a house. If you're a brewery student, you should know how to brew beer.
And plans for further expansion of the Central Campus have also been announced.
The brewery will in fact move closer to the road together with a restaurant for the benefit, a teaching facility for our hospitality students.
$6,500, the bid straight out the back to me.
The open day also featured a couple of auctions, a small shed and this 3-bedroom house, both built by Central Campus carpentry students. The house bought by a local couple for just under $180,000.
For $178,000.
In Cromwell, the South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek. Cruise ship visits to Dunedin are projected to keep increasing over the next 10 years, and a French cat visits Dunedin by sailboat. Welcome back. The Dunedin branch of an annual Christmas appeal received a musical boost from a school kapa haka group this week. As they've done for more than a decade, members of the George Street Normal School's kapa haka group and choir entertained people in the Meridian Mall.
In the spirit of giving at Christmas, members of the George Street Normal School's kapa haka group and choir gave a free concert in front of Kmart. George Street Normal Kapa Haka coordinator Natalie Yeoman says the group has done this for more than 10 years.
The group is now 11 years old and we began it 11 years ago, and it's started out with 25, we've been up to 90 and it's just grown and grown a little bit more each year.
Among the familiar waiata in their repertoire is a song made famous by the Pātea Māori Club in the 1980s. It features some of the troupe using the long poi, which Yeoman says isn't common in such young performers as it takes a high level of skill.
We've built up a tradition of children being able to do long poi at our school, and I have to say I've never seen another primary school doing it. I've seen a lot of primary schools doing short poi, but this is one of the strengths of our school, is doing the long poi.
The reason the group is performing is in support of the Kmart Wishing Tree Appeal, which began in Australia Christmas 1987. Dawn Barnes is Dunedin's Wishing Tree champion and has been doing it for more than a decade.
Many years. It's either 13 or 14 years, I've lost track. I started when, I think it was before my daughter was born. She's now 13 and a half, and yeah, every year it just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Although she admits not initially choosing to take on the role, it's one she's now really enjoying.
Basically, I was roped into it, and it's just, something that I am addicted to now. I just can't not do it.
Barnes says many families feel pressure to compete with their neighbours to give their kids the coolest gifts, and many find it a financial struggle.
But there's just so many people that are in need, and of course Cadbury's closing down and things like that, didn't help, and so many families are struggling.
She says gifts don't have to be purchased from their store and is encouraging people to donate handmade presents or cash for needy families. The appeal runs until the 24th of December this year, although the company says cash donations will be accepted until the 31st of January next year. Dawn Barnes says Kmart doesn't make money from the appeal, and all of the funds raised go to the Salvation Army for distribution. In Dunedin, the South Today.
If you're walking through central Dunedin between November and March, chances are you'll encounter groups of cruise ship visitors exploring the town. Cruise ship visits are projected to continue to increase over the next 7 to 10 years, but tourism professionals are keeping the situation under control.
Putting plans in place for a visit of 3 cruise ships coming this Saturday. Dunedin Eyesight Manager Louise van der Vleert says cruise ship visits are set to keep increasing over the next decade.
The forecasts are this next year will grow a little bit, and then we will see another huge leap the year after. It will plateau eventually, but there is forecasting that it will carry on growing for the next 7 to 10 years.
While Dunedin streets aren't totally congested on days multiple cruise ships visit, she's mindful of the issues.
We're very aware of making sure that the balance is correct, and New Zealand as a whole, we are talking sustainable tourism, and that will apply through to the cruise industry as well.
And while New Zealand's weather can be variable any time of year, she says tourists can still enjoy their visit during wet weather.
Milford Sound in the rain is just absolutely fantastic, but look, really, when people come in here on a rainy day, we've got so much they can actually do. We've got fantastic museums, the art gallery.
Dunedin's architecture may not be as old as some places overseas, but surveys show visitors still enjoy exploring the town.
They love it, and they love our railway station, they love our churches. So they do like that architecture, and down at the university and things like that. But a lot of them do love just getting out to our botanic garden. They love the green and the vegetation of Dunedin as well.
Along with the 3 cruise ships visiting on Saturday, 4 others are set to call in to Dunedin during the rest of this week. In Dunedin, for the South Today.
3 Dunedin city organisations have been announced as finalists in the 2018 New Zealand Events Association Awards. The Dunedin City Council, Dunedin Venues Management Limited and the New Zealand International Science Festival are all in the finals, beating fierce competition from across the country.
Over 1,000 school pupils filling Dunedin's Octagon with a ukulele jam held the day before Ed Sheeran's concerts back in late March. The event was organised by the City Council as part of their Paint the Town Ed festival. Now, the success of that project has been recognised with a nomination for Best Local Government Event in the upcoming Events Association Awards.
So it shows the Dunedin events industry is on track. We're looking with our strategies, and we really are, as you said, punching above our weight in a really creative way, I think, that celebrates the Dunedin brand.
Jackman says the success of the Ed Sheeran weekend illustrates Dunedin's positive attitude towards major events.
We're actually quite lucky that we've got a city that embraces different ideas and unique ideas, and we work really closely together. So we've got a tight-knit team of city stakeholders that are pretty keen to take a risk, and I think we're brave around what we do, and I think it pays off for us.
Dunedin's New Zealand International Science Festival is also up for Best Regional Event. This year's festival featured over 200 events entertaining and educating people from preschool and up. Dunedin Venues Management Limited are also up for 2 awards for staging this year's Ed Sheeran concerts at Forsyth Bar Stadium.
This feels like I'm playing in Dublin. You guys are mental.
They've been nominated for Best Emerging Event Professional, and the stadium itself is up for Best Venue.
And it came about from a lot of hard work. Once the promoter allocated the show Ed Sheeran here that weekend, it meant everybody had to start thinking outside the square. So it's a culmination of not only an incredible weekend of effort, but the whole entire 2018.
Davies is confident the stadium will continue to punch above its weight, despite the spectre of a rival facility in Christchurch.
Oh, competition's competition, and we can't care about what goes on up the road. We care about today, tomorrow, and what we can manage. We've proven ourselves, to your point, over the last 3-4 years. We have great relationships in the market. We're selling tickets, and we're delivering brilliant events. So all we focus on is doing what we do better, day by day, and it's going to be a challenge for Christchurch to not only come to market but to challenge us. We're here for the long haul, and we're going to win content and we're going to go hard.
The winners of the Events Association Awards will be announced in March next year. In Dunedin, for the South Today.
A French cat on a round-the-world voyage has been confined to the brig aboard his skipper's damaged yacht at Keres Bay. Navy has been locked up on the orders of the Ministry for Primary Industries under strict quarantine at a secure berth near Port Chalmers in Dunedin.
Taking some welcome time out at Keres Bay near Dunedin, French sailors Franche Guyon and Francis Tolan are partway through a single-handed circumnavigation of the globe, commemorating the 50th anniversary of the first solo non-stop round-the-world yacht race. But while the event is a solo effort, Guyon says his friend Tolan has some company on the journey, Navy the cat.
Behind the doghouse, and I like to be here when the weather is strong. It's good places here. You can see everything.
But Navy's been banished to the brig under the strict orders of MPI. They got wind of the feline crew member and locked him in a cage under strict quarantine.
One time by day, MPI official came to Francis, give him to hit, to change his toilets and to see if all thing is good for him.
MPI say Navy's confined to the yacht, but it appears they're yet to decide what will happen to the cat when the vessel undergoes repairs to its hull. Tolan's yacht limped into Otago Harbour after blowing out 3 sails, having engine problems and striking rocks off the Otago coast. But speaking via fellow race participant and friend Guyon, Tolan says the cat makes a fine crew member who enjoys life at sea.
He likes very much to live on board.
Over the past 6 months, Navy and Tolan have sailed from France through the Atlantic and across the Indian Ocean, but it hasn't all been plain sailing.
One time he have go on water, but alors tu l'as sauvé comment?
Je l'ai récupéré.
Comme ça, juste avant, and he have saved him just limit one time, yes.
The cat even has a life jacket, but it's rarely used as Navy tends to keep off deck. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek. A Christchurch teenager wins the Canterbury Tennis Open, and the tutor of a Waiata singing group receives a citation from Dunedin's libraries. Welcome back. The Department of Conservation is praising the efforts of staff at Bunnings Dunedin and members of the public after they ushered a juvenile seal back to the harbour. The department says it's reasonably common at this time of year and is urging anyone who encounters wildlife out of their natural habitat to alert them as soon as possible.
Department of Conservation rangers on Portsmouth Drive this morning say staff of a hardware store did a fantastic job directing a young male seal back to the water.
This morning a young fur seal had come out of the harbour along Portsmouth Drive and crossed the road and gone to Bunnings. Not sure what he was looking for.
The seal was found in the freight yard of Bunnings, having made it safely across morning traffic on one of the major arterial routes into the city. And Fife is asking the public to call them if they see young fur seals coming ashore, as it's quite common this time of year.
Okay, this time of year, the adult males become territorial on the outer coast at the various breeding colonies, and so some of those younger animals that are around are sort of chased out of those spots, and they're too young to partake in the action and go and try and find somewhere quieter. And obviously in this case, he's come into the harbour.
He believes this particular young male may come ashore again, and they'd like to be able to take him out of city waters.
We think this one is small enough that we will relocate him to the outer coast again, just because there are so few places where he can safely get out of the water in the harbour.
While he's thankful to the hardware store staff and passers-by who helped this time, their message for the public is to give all wildlife space and let Doc know the details. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A Christchurch-based teenager is thought to be the youngest player ever to win the Canterbury Tennis Open. 16-year-old Reece Falk got the better of players up to 30 years his senior. He caught up with CTV's Gordon Finn later after the event.
This is the teenager now believed to be the youngest winner of one of Canterbury's oldest sporting trophies. 16-year-old Reece Falk took out the Canterbury Open at the weekend. The trophy has been played for since 1901 and has embedded into it some of New Zealand's greatest tennis players, including the likes of Brian Fairley, Oni Parrin, Alistair Hunt, and more recently, Michael Venus.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, pretty special. Just be on the same trophy as one of the Grand Slam champions.
He's won age group national titles, but going up against players some even 30 years his senior at the weekend posed a different challenge.
It's difficult because they've obviously been around a bit and travelled and know how to play the game, so it's just hard to play against someone with that much experience and skill.
Tennis Canterbury regional head coach Matthew Meredith was one of those experienced players in the weekend's field.
To win a Canterbury Open at 16 years old is a fantastic achievement, because you have to beat a lot of tough older players to do that.
So, what is it that gives this 16-year-old the edge?
Reece has got a really relaxed nature when he plays, which helps him a lot. He's got a big serve and a big forehand, but unlike most juniors, Reece has the ability to mix it up a lot. So he volleys very well for a young player his age. You don't normally see that as a 16-year-old having volleys as well. So he's got the ability to mix it up a lot. So if things aren't working for him, he can come in and try and win points in different ways.
Falk's first steps as a tennis player didn't involve a court or a hitting partner. A garage door at his first home in Christchurch after moving with his family from South Africa, paving his pathway to success.
Yeah, garage, I just used to get a foam ball and just have a few rallies with.
He'll look to continue his development with a busy summer of tournaments. He's the favourite for 16s nationals in January. However, he's setting bigger goals, hopeful of securing the 18s national title, which begins in Auckland next week.
Strong field, so from round one it'll be real tough, but yeah, definitely if I play my best tennis I don't see why I don't have a shot.
As for goals further down the track,
I'd like to become world number one and become a Grand Slam champion.
Not a bad attitude to have for a clearly talented teenager.
Each year, the Dunedin Public Library gives out an award to a local resident who's made a long and outstanding contribution to the library's collections, services or programs. This week saw the honour being awarded to the tutor of the Dunedin City Council Waiata Group.
Performing for a civic function. The Dunedin City Council Waiata Group has been well schooled by Moana Wesley, and today she received the Dunedin Public Library's citation for her role as the group's tutor.
I feel incredibly humbled, actually, incredibly humbled. I love the mahi that we do as part of the Waiata Group.
The group grew out of some cultural training sessions held for Dunedin Public Library staff nearly 20 years ago. Nowadays the group is regularly called upon to perform at council events and celebrations around the city.
We learn waiata, we are ready to support functions like this, openings, all kinds of things. We've got one at the Art Gallery this Friday.
The citation recognises a valuable contribution to the city's libraries over a long period. Wesley says the Waiata group is focused on cultural inclusion.
We spend a lot of time not just singing but also talking about how we honour all the cultures.
The council says the Waiata group has played a significant part in many DCC events in the community. In Dunedin, for the South Today.
That's all for Southern Newsweek. Head online and check us out on Facebook or keep up with Southern News via our website channel39.co.nz. I'm Sophie Morris. Thanks for watching.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.